Very easy. We're talking about music and movies and media. First, I want to tell you, Utica Teens in Action, it was supposed to be our guest today. They have had to reschedule, so they will be here May 5th. So we'll also hear from some other people that are doing young entrepreneur stuff out in the city of Utica. But first, Nabil Khan is our entertainment correspondent. Welcome to the show, Nabil.
Hey, Ron, how's it going?
So what's going on with the big Switch controversy
So
in video games? So
yes.
This is Nintendo.
Yep, so the Nintendo Switch 2, everybody's been kind of anticipating the official announcement for a while.
And this is the hardware. So this would be like the operating system
Yep,
itself.
the actual,
kind of like the PlayStation equivalent.
The actual console, yep. So they
console, that was the word I wanted.
They officially announced it last week, and they announced the price tag, which was $449, or I think $500 if you take it with a game.
Now, is that about average for a console?
It's about average for a console. It's a little higher than people expect from Nintendo. I think their last console when it came out was about $300 brand new.
Oh, that's
so
pretty.
So there's a little bit of a hike up from them. Still a little less than the others though. Like your brand new Xbox, brand new PlayStation, those are about $500 brand new.
So Nintendo's generally cheaper than Xbox, and I didn't know that.
And it was one of those things where even if you were like, I'm an Xbox guy, I'm a PlayStation guy, a lot of people were like, but I still have my Nintendo as well.
Yeah.
So. So they announced last week, it's going to be coming out in June. Not a huge window for the announcement, right? But the pre-orders are supposed to start on the 9th.
Mm-hmm.
I actually had my alarm set as well, for Tuesday going into Wednesday.
Right.
Try to grab one on Amazon or something.
Yeah.
And then the tariff announcements kind of came through, and Nintendo pulled back their pre-order date. They haven't changed the release date yet.
As of now.
But the concern is that the price may change now that the tariffs might be affecting them.
Yeah.
Because they're an international item. They even if they made them have like factories here. I mean the parts of them are coming from Japan and other places. So it's a tariffable item.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's a tariffable thing too. If people can't buy those stuff that they want. So, what will likely happen with the price? Obviously going to go up, but what do they expect?
It seems like one of two possible things that can happen. I mean, as we've seen with some of the tariffs that have been announced, as they get closer and closer to the deadline, sometimes it seems like our government and other governments have been playing chicken a little bit. And in some cases, they've kind of backed down.
Yeah.
So what could happen is they could back down and the price kind of just stays the same, and we sort of forget that there was a tariff scare regarding it.
Yeah.
Alternatively, they might have to up the price, by some percentage. I mean, I've heard as high as 25%
to pay the tariff.
To pass it on to the
consumers.
Exactly. So 25% on, $450 would be over $100 increase. It'd be probably somewhere in like the $575 range, probably. Yeah. If that were to happen that way, or on the high end.
Now, are video games made in America, or are those imported as well? Well, actually, how are games purchased now? Like on a download, or like actual physical copy, or?
So they do offer both in most systems, especially with the Switch 2. They were kind of touting how for the first time the cost of buying them digitally was going to be cheaper than physical.
Okay.
Up till now, like if you were to go buy a digital versus physical game for your your PlayStation, the cost was the same.
Oh, really? I mean, you weren't getting the plastic?
Right. Yeah. I think in a weird way they were passing on the cost of the physical, even if you weren't buying it. They're like, well, we still had to make it for somebody, so we're charging you the same for the digital. And now they're sort of like, okay, they're about $10 less if you buy them digitally versus physically.
Oh, that would make sense, kind of.
So, I mean, and that's sort of the price point they'd outlined for the first few games they announced for the Switch 2.
So, are these games if they're completely downloaded once, would those be subject to a tariff too?
That's a good question. I'm not sure how the tariff would apply to digital items. You know what I mean? Like if we were to buy something on like Google Play or Apple or something that's from a company that exists outside of the U.S.,
right?
Or is the U.S. going to levy a tariff on a digital item that doesn't require any sort of shipment or transportation or anything?
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that, but it's something to consider.
Yeah. So how long has it been since Nintendo has released a new console? Is this like an an update or like a whole new thing?
It is
Like
a
on a PS5, it's like
yeah,
the PS itself, right?
sure, yeah. So it is a full blown sequel. There is a Switch like right now as an existing console. I want to say we're close to about 10 years since that first came out.
Wow. Wow.
Um,
So there's been a lot of wait for this thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean, at a certain point, you kind of stop thinking about it because you're just, you're kind of content and you're in the life cycle of your game
This seems
system.
unusual though. Like, how come it's been 10 years since the new console?
Oh,
How long
that's-
has it been since the PlayStation was released?
the PlayStation
first.
5's, the
Or
very
like
first
the
one.
first one, yeah.
Oh, early 90s.
So, I mean, how often, like, how do they know, like, when to, like, stop updating and do a whole brand new thing? Like, what is the Switch? What is different about this new product, this new Switch coming out?
I'll be honest, from the specs that I've looked at so far, there aren't a huge amount of differences. I mean, it will the new system will actually be able to play all the original Switch games. Like, so if you've got the existing cartridges and you upgrade, they're like, hey, don't worry, you can play them on your new system.
Yeah.
I mean, there are other, like quality of life changes, like a bigger screen. They've updated the way the controller looks a little bit. There's some changes I've heard as well that like replacements of certain accessories are going to cost more now. I think a lot of it kind of goes into the how far they can push the hardware, in terms of the actual like specs on them.
Yeah.
So, at a certain point they
Like speed and like the graphics.
exactly,
Yeah,
at a certain
graphics.
point they like kind of hit a wall where they're like, we've gone as far as we can go and we need
Yeah.
to upgrade to something better. And a lot of these, consoles they're not like computers where computers you can kind of upgrade your computer and
Right.
not have to buy a whole new one.
Yeah.
And these, you're kind of stuck with what you've got.
You can't like buy more memory for a PS5 or a Switch, right? Like,
Yes and no. I mean, a lot of them offer the ability for you to like buy like say hard drives that you can
like
plug
an
into
external?
them. Yeah,
Oh.
and some of them too. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if Sony does this. I know Xbox has a cloud service.
yeah.
I'd be shocked if Sony didn't as well. I know Nintendo also does. A lot like Apple, where you can just kind of like pay into the cloud and
Yeah.
like, you can save stuff digitally. Personally, I'm more of a physical guy. Like I want to be able to like know that my thing is there versus if it disappeared into the cloud. But
How do most people do it now? Like, are most people still like that where they want the physical, like the disc, or are most people buying it more like the streaming?
I think it's 50-50. I mean, like I'm sure some people prefer the physical for either the aesthetic or the resaleability.
Yeah, I guess.
Well,
yeah.
security too.
Oh, resale too. That's
Yeah, I mean,
true,
because
yeah.
you can't sell the digital. Once it's
Right.
on yours, it's yours.
Yep.
But if you play the game, beat the game, you'd be satisfied even getting back 30% of what you paid on it. Better
yeah.
than nothing.
Right.
You know,
when you're done with it. you might as
there's
well.
entire business models like GameStop
right.
and places
yep.
like that where they rely on people to trade in their old stuff.
Yeah.
So-
Now, has AI impacted the industry much? In terms of development or video games or
I don't know if it affects the actual like creation, but I definitely know that it affects consumer confidence.
Yeah.
When you hear like a lot of consumers don't seem to like it when they hear that AI has done the job of a person. You see like artwork and they're like designed by AI versus
Right,
like maybe a
right.
person that would have done that for the game.
yeah.
I think it really just depends on the extent though. If you're a person who's a developer and you employ AI as a tool rather than to completely replace your job, I don't see it as much of a problem as say I'm a game developer and I'm just literally going to turn on AI
To develop the
to
game
develop
itself.
and not pay people. I think that when that information gets out, people feel kind of like okay, jobs were taken.
Right.
You took the human touch out of the thing too because I'm not sure how much AI can discern that sort of thing. You and I might look at something and say, "Oh wow, that looks great. That looks terrible." AI was told to make something look like a lake, make something look like a
Right.
person in the woods,
Yeah.
and the nuance is kind of taken out of it, the human aspect.
Yeah, sometimes you can just tell it doesn't have that, What are some of the other things like happening in the business with video games? Like, what's happening with PS5 or PlayStation or Sega or
So right now, besides the Switch 2 coming out, we have the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, and they're basically like each other's counterpart right now.
Yeah.
One is the Microsoft one is the Sony one. I would say they're at about the middle point on their lives right now. They've both been out about 5 years, and it actually doesn't feel like that long because like the first year or two that both of them were out, they were so hard to come by.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean it was like right around COVID.
Oh, because it was
And
COVID.
some of it was COVID, some of it was just like scarcity. They just didn't put out enough supply, and people are like, you're having to worry about like scalpers. People that are like buying them up and then reselling them. So that takes it out of the market for your average person. And eventually, people either have like paid the price of the scalper or outlasted them, for lack of a better term. And then more supply is hit the market, and people. I don't know anybody right now that doesn't have one if they want one.
Yeah.
But they can get them.
It was probably like also, I'm sure the demand was so great during COVID because everyone was stuck at home.
Sure, right. You know what I mean?
So.
You're like right there, and yeah, everybody's looking for their like COVID hobby, for lack of a better term.
Right.
I know so many people came up with like things that they like kind of hyper fixated on.
Yep.
There were people that came out of COVID that like were into like Pokemon cards. They hadn't touched Pokemon cards in 20 years, and like, oh, I got nothing better to do.
Yeah.
I'm gonna dig through my cards. I'm gonna start buying new ones. Or whatever. People.
So did they happen with video games, like a renaissance or a resurgence?
I don't. All I'll say on that is I think maybe people got more quality time with them. Maybe instead of like coming home and it just being your after work hobby, it was more like you were sitting there doing your at-home job.
You started to think about things and strategize. And
possibly. Or you might have been one of those people that had two screens going, and you might have been doing something on one while you're on your conference call on the other.
That was when I got over 1 million points in Plants vs. Zombies during COVID because I had so much time with the iPad.
Exactly, right?
It's like, yeah.
So,
So what was the last like big blockbuster game? Because like you hear about all these games, but like a lot of them are like a franchise, like GTA or like Super Mario. When's the last like new thing, like completely new game?
It's hard to break in as a new franchise. You know what I mean? When you're established, like those are the things that people are used to, and they can remember. Oh, I liked that one in that series or in that one.
Yeah.
And God's honest, the game I can think of most recently that was really big is a franchise game. They had a new entry into the Assassin's Creed series.
Right, and Assassin's Creed, I believe, went back to the 80s even, possibly when I was at KB Toy and Hobby and we sold the original. It seems like, how old is Assassin's Creed?
As far as I know, Assassin's Creed is
I mean, maybe something else I'm thinking of.
It could be. I mean, the first Assassin's Creed video game came out on the Xbox 360, which...
Well, then it would have been after my time. Like, because I worked at a toy store in the 80s, and we had Atari, of course, and television stuff. I think some of the games, the Mario stuff, is like still
Mario's still
viable,
around, Sonic, Donkey Kong, I mean, like, Final Fantasy.
Right. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking it must be hard because like new games have to compete with the established hits. They're going to make new releases and like updates and stuff. What's the last big game you can think of? Or it's like brand new thing, like Madden or like Plants vs. Zombies. Yeah, like
right?
just something like a brand new video game.
When it was a WWF.
Right.
Right?
But was that a whole new thing, like a new like a new franchise established? You know?
Here's the thing with the age that we live in now, there's probably more video games coming out than anything, but a lot of it's independent. A lot of it like will make their way into like, apps and things like that. We just got Minecraft as a movie.
Right.
Minecraft started as kind of like a little game that nobody cared about, and now it's like the biggest thing. Like every kid loves playing Minecraft.
So are games being developed like that are like for Switch or Sega but not made by them?
Oh,
like
100%. Yeah, so I mean, and they do that for all the systems. What they call them, the big difference there is they call them first party versus third, right? So if you're Nintendo and you're making Mario, right? That's like a first party game. But if you're Nintendo and you decide you wanted to put on, I don't know, there's a game for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, let's say.
Yeah.
Right? Nintendo doesn't own Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, so it's a third-party game that's being made, but for the Switch.
Right.
So, I mean, and that's it happens.
So, like, whoever owns the
They work together with Nintendo and be like, hey, we're developing this game. We'd like to release it on your platform.
Yeah.
And
Well, what about like smaller? Are there like even smaller, like more independent people that
yeah. I mean, again and again, like
how does that work? Like someone who like is good at coding could develop a game for
right.
put it out.
That could be some people's COVID hobbies coming to life.
Right.
Somebody started a game in their closet, their garage, or whatever, and 5 years later, it's on Google and Apple
What would it
Store.
be on? It would be on the Google Play Store, right?
Could be. I mean, they might approach the bigger producers. It just kind of depends. I will say that the world that we live in now is much more open to those other non
kind of indie stuff.
Yeah, they're more open to it than they would have been in the past.
Yeah.
So I mean, it wouldn't be totally shocking to walk into a game store and then look in the Switch section and see stuff that isn't the traditional Mario, Pokemon.
I mean, are you starting to see like titles in stores from like companies that are like not Nintendo or not Sega?
Yeah, and what's funny too is
what are some of those companies like? Who's making stuff like?
I mean, like, so for example, with the Minecraft, like their company's called Mojang, right?
Okay. See, I thought Minecraft was probably owned by Nintendo or something like that. That's an independent.
They're their own. And
cool.
For the longest time, they were only on Xbox.
Yeah.
And eventually, like some of these, companies like kind of get like chased after a little bit too. Like, hey, we
want to play too.
Yeah, Nintendo and PlayStation are like, hey, we like the success that we're seeing on Xbox. Can we have a turn?
Yeah.
And sometimes what they'll do is they'll have
the consumer demand gets other companies to like get on board with the game.
Sometimes what they do too is they have exclusivity. For years, if you were a baseball fan and you wanted to play like the new baseball game every year, you had to have a PlayStation. It was called MLB The Show. They now have it on the other systems, but for the longest time it was PlayStation only. A couple times they tried to do an MLB 2K, like the WWE 2K or like, and it just was nowhere near as good. Yeah. People are just like, oh, this isn't the show. I don't want it.
So
and then you wouldn't see another MLB 2K for 5 years.
Yeah.
Well, the show was coming out consistently every spring, just in time for spring training.
Cool. Well, okay. Well, everyone. So I'm talking to Nabil Khan and DJ J Easy. We're talking about music, video games. We will talk about music and movies when we get back. I'm Ron Klopfenstein. You're in the hot seat on a Media Monday. More after the break.
At First Source,